People across the country have been lobbying for a guaranteed basic income for several years, as we've talked about before on Information Morning. This weekend, advocates will hold a conference at Dalhousie University to look at how a basic income would work. One of the speakers, Floyd Marinescu, will offer an unusual perspective. He's the CEO of C4 Media Inc., a global firm that deals with software development, and he will be arguing for basic income from a business perspective.
Good morning, Mr. Marinescu.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Very good. Happy to be here.
Why is this a good idea for business?
Well, it's quite simple. What could be more pro-business than having more customers? Basic income, I think, is one of the best, most scalable economic stimulus we could imagine. Put more money in the hands of people that will spend it, and that eventually trickle up to more customers for businesses, more sustainability. As a business owner, I'd rather have 10% more revenue than 10% more profit, even if that means that the tax rates slightly go up. It means that business is more sustainable.
We have heard recently, again, another wave of interest in changing, including right here in Nova Scotia, where the NDP has suggested an hourly wage, minimum hourly wage of $15, and you have the pushback is we can't afford it. I would assume that a guaranteed income would be more expensive even than upping the ante on whatever the minimum wage might be.
It depends how you look at it. So a lot of people, when they think about basic income, they make a mistake in calculating it as the gross amounts, meaning, okay, let's say there's 30 million Canadians times 15,000. No, we can't afford that. That's not actually how you'd implement a basic income. It's the net cost, not the gross cost. So it's really about the segment of society, probably the bottom third of society, that would keep more of the basic income, and then everyone above that would be paying out slightly more. But it's important to note, though, that there have been credible studies by institutions such as Ryerson University that have shown that you can implement the basic income in Canada in a revenue-neutral manner to the government, which part of that will come from cost savings from eliminating existing welfare programs that are no longer needed. Other part is through eliminating a lot of tax loopholes, and there's other methods to generate funding for that as well. So it's actually not nearly as expensive as one would imagine.
This also speaks, I think, significantly, if you will, to some changing elements, very dynamic elements within the economy. I think you were suggesting to our researcher that you were at the Hyatt recently, and somebody there was telling you how many people used to work there and how many people work there now.
This is really important. So people need to understand that we're in the middle of a global transformation. We're entering a globalized economy where Canadians are now competing with 2 billion new people, at least, people around the world that can do internet jobs as well as manufacturing. We all know about manufacturing outsourcing that's happening, but even like information jobs that are accustomed to being paid half to a fifth of what we're being paid here. This is the new reality of the world that we're in. Globalization and the automation that we've already been experiencing to the point of the Hyatt. I run large events in major cities around the world, and the general manager of the Hyatt in Manhattan mentioned that in the 80s, his hotel needed 2,500 people to be staffed. Now it needs only 1,500, just due to the software gains and other automation that we already have. So we're in the midst of this tidal wave of automation and globalization, which is putting downward pressure on the earnings potential for most of society. And it's kind of simple physics, right? You're competing with people around the world who make a lot less. So eventually that's going to catch up. So from a business perspective, that eventually means like less buying power for people who buy stuff from at all levels of business in society in any Western country. So I see a basic income as the most scalable solution to share in the gains of globalization and automation, not just the wealthy owners of the machines or the businesses that are globalizing or automating. So that's kind of the current state now. But the reason why a lot of people have been talking about basic income in the last 5 years is because Silicon Valley is warning that within 20, 30 years, we could have half of all jobs be lost to new forms of artificial intelligence and automation. Not just Silicon Valley, actually. A lot of credible research institutions have made that prediction, including for Canada. So what's going to happen if half of all jobs are gone? Probably with self-driving trucks being among the first. So at that point, we need to really rethink the social contract, rethink how society is structured. And I think basic income will have to be a part of that.
When you, as the president of C4 Media Inc., go to the Chamber of Commerce and you bring this idea up, do they think that you're Mao Zedong?
I've never been to a chamber of commerce, but I do go to a lot of entrepreneurship events where a lot of other CEOs of even much larger businesses than mine are, and pretty much everyone I talk to is pretty receptive to it. They're pretty open to it, and in fact, supportive. And, why wouldn't they be? I mean, wouldn't it be great to have a more compassionate capitalism where, you can have innovation, entrepreneurship, but you know that everyone else is okay too? There's no poverty, the working poor and don't need to be destitute. But even from an entrepreneurship perspective, imagine how many people are not in the right job that fits their gifts and talents now, simply out of fear, because they're stuck there because it's paying the bills and they're afraid to make a change. Imagine if you had a basic income. People could take more long-term perspective, to take more time away from work to figure out what they want to do next. That's also kind of a social justice issue. People in their 20s from working poor families don't have the ability to, they have to kind of get to the workforce right away. Maybe they're not taking the right jobs as opposed to children of rich people that can take as much time as they want. So I think basic income is amazing for entrepreneurship potential. People will be less afraid to fail and more upwards mobility in society, which is a very Canadian value, I think.
Putting the social justice issue aside for a while, do you think that people are open to the discussion that it's also good economics that if you have somebody who in fact has a guaranteed basic income, the chance that they're not going to be wealthy, and the chances are whatever their check is, they're going to be spending it, it will be immediately recirculated back into the economy?
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of research has been done in the context of minimum wage and other kinds of social programs like that show that there is a multiplier effect to more money in the hands, especially of the bottom 50% of society by earnings potential. People spend it, right? I mean, rich people can only spend so much, but if you put money in the hands of people that need it, they're going to spend it. So that's why I think basic income is such an amazing economic stimulus. And also really good for Canada. We do have consumption taxes here, so every dollar that gets spent ends up being more revenue also for the government, which can be applied for other kinds of programs too, including paying for the basic income.
Floyd, thank you very much for taking our call this morning.
Excellent, thank you.
Good to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wait, shortly after this interview was recorded, the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Stephen Poloz, went on record on an episode of The House, a CBC radio podcast, and actually credited a basic income-like program for increasing the economy. Listen up.
For example, Canadian Child Benefit is adding about 0.5 percentage points to the economic growth this year. Well, that's pretty significant in that process of closing the output gap that we talked before.
There you have it. This is a central bank governor saying that Canada actually increased its economy by 0.5% GDP growth, which actually put Canada in the lead of the G7. That's amazing. Faster a growing economy than US, UK, France, all those countries, in part due to the implementation of the Canada Child Benefit, which is a cash transfer program that primarily benefits working families with children. Imagine how much faster the economy would be growing if in fact we had a basic income that was actually obviously a much larger amount that went to all Canadians. Further supporting this, the Roosevelt Institute, a think tank in the U.S., did some research and found that if a basic income was implemented in the U.S., it would grow the economy permanently by 12 to 13%. That's a $2.5 trillion growth in the economy by 2025. So I just wanted to add that in the context of this video to hopefully show that basic income is an economic stimulus. It is pro-business, it is pro-free market, and it will enhance the quality of life for all Canadians and all businesses.